Okay, that's another thing. And what is this? I have to do this. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. Your web application needs 4 instances to support steady traffic nearly all of the time. On the last day of each month, the traffic triples. What is a cost-effective way to handle the traffic pattern? A. Run 12 reserved instances all of the time. B. Run 4 on-demand instances constantly, then add 8 more on-demand instances on the last day of each month. C. Run 4 reserved instances constantly, then add 8 on-demand instances on the last day of each month. Or D. Run 4 on-demand instances constantly, then add 8 reserved instances on the last day of each month.
I think it's C.
Who's this?
It's me, Noshin.
Yes, Nashin. Why you think it's C?
Because you're only paying for the capacity that is required, and you're not tied into the financial commitment, so you're adding the 8 on demand each month. I think.
Absolutely right. Okay, good. Did you pick the keywords very correctly?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so question number 2. Your order processing application processes orders extracted from a queue with 2 reserved instances processing 10 orders per minute or /minute. If an order fails during processing, it is returned to the queue without penalty. Due to a weekend sale, the queues have several hundred orders backed up. While a backup is not catastrophic, you would like to drain it so that customers get their confirmation emails faster. What is a cost-effective way to drain the queue for the orders? Create more queues, deploy additional spot instances to assist in processing the orders. C. Deploy additional reserved instances to assist in processing the orders. Or D. Deploy additional on-demand instances to assist in processing the orders.
So what are the keywords here?
I think one of the keywords is the most cost-effective way. Mm-hmm. So I think it's maybe spot instances, because sometimes you can purchase them. I remember you saying this, the price can change and reduce quite drastically. So I'm thinking it's spot instances. I don't know if it's correct.
Okay, who is agree with Nashin? Anyone? Sajida? Hamza?
What I think, I feel it is the D answer.
Okay. Anybody else agree with Nashin?
So I'm confused between A and B. I think it's create more queues.
What led you to the queue side?
So I think it's B. Deploy additional spot instances to assist in processing the orders, because it's not catastrophic and we're trying to save money.
That's correct. Absolutely right, Nashin and Junaid. The answer is B. Because spot is the way when you actually give your price for like a bid, you are bidding for that. So you give your price you want, and you don't have, this is not like a time critical. So that's why I say you are the critical thing is how you can save the money. That's most important thing. Okay, so question number 3.
Okay, so question number 3. Which of the following must be specified when launching a new Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud, Amazon EC2? Windows instance, choose two answers. A, the Amazon EC2 instance ID. B, password for the administrator account. C, Amazon EC2 instance type. Or G, Amazon machine image AMI.
C and D.
C and D. Who's there? Anmol?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Who's agree with Anmol?
I agree with Anmol because I remember from the demos he used to set those things up. So that's why I agree.
Anybody else? Who else?
I agree with her.
Okay, that's correct. 100%. Okay.
Question number 4. You have purchased an M3X large Linux reserved instance in US East 1A. In which ways can you modify this reservation? Choose two answers. A, change it into two M3 large instances. B, change it to a Windows instance. C, move it to US East 1B. Or D, change it to an M4X large.
Sir, A to confirm है.
Okay.
I think is the other one C?
That's correct. Very good. Cool.
Question number 5. Your instance is associated with two security groups. The first allows remote desktop protocol RDP access over port 3389 from classless inter-domain routing CIDR block 72.140.0/16. The second allows HTTP access over port 80 from CIDR block 0.0.0.0/0. What traffic can reach your instance? A, RDP and HTTP access from CIDR block 0.0.0.0/0. B, no traffic is allowed. RDP, C, RDP and HTTP traffic from 72.14.0.0/16. D, RDP traffic over port 3389 from 72.14.0.0/16. And HTTP traffic over port 80 from 0.0.00/0.
Okay, when you see something like zero, all the zero and the /0, that means all the traffic. So you can say all the traffic. So when you have like a /16, so that means you can say from this IP address, right?
Okay.
To make your life easy.
I think it's D.
What is that?
I think it's D.
D as David?
Yes, sir.
Who's agree with?
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay.
D.
Yeah. Anybody else? Okay, that's correct. Last question. Hello?
अली पढ़ो ना.
अली सो तो
Sorry.
नहीं है?
बोल नहीं सर, मैं बोल रहा था लेकिन मेरा माइक ऑफ.
अच्छा ठीक है.
अच्छा. Number 6. Which of the following are features of enhanced networking? Choose three answers. A, more packets per second PPS. B, lower latency. C, multiple network interfaces. D, border gateway protocol BGP routing. And E, less jitter.
I think A, B, and C.
Maheen, A, B, and C. Who's agree with Maheen?
Yeah, I agree with her.
Okay. Anybody else?
I agree as well.
Okay. A, B, and one is C is not correct.
No, sorry. I think it's A, B, and E. Less jitter, I think.
That's true.
Then I think
Yeah, that's correct. Okay, good. I think I have one more slide. You want to try that? Yes. Go ahead, Ali.
Question number 7. You're creating a high performance computing HPC cluster and need very low latency and high bandwidth between instances. What combination of the following will allow us? A. Use an instance type with 10 Gbps network performance. B. Put the instances in a placement group. C. Use dedicated instances. D. Enable enhanced networking on the instances. Or E. Use reserved instances.
I think it's this A, C, and D.
A, B, and E.
A, B, and E, and Sajida said the A, B, and D, right?
No, I said A, C, and D.
A, C, and D. Okay. It's not D. It's no. Sorry. It's you say A, B, and
No, A, C, and D.
oh, okay. Yeah, the C is not correct.
I think it's A, B, and D.
Who's agree with machine?
I agree with her. Yeah.
Okay, that's correct. A, B, and D. Enable enhanced networking on the instances. Okay, question number 8.
Okay, so question number 8. Which Amazon Elastic Compute Cloud, Amazon EC2 feature ensures that your instances will not share a physical host with instances from any other AWS customer? A. Amazon Virtual Private Cloud VPC. B. Placement groups. C. Dedicated instances. Or D. Reserved instances.
VPC?
Dedicated.
Dedicated instances.
Who's agree with Anmol?
Yeah, I think it's dedicated as well.
Yeah. See, these are key. What is the keyword here?
So will not share a physical host with instances
That's
from any
correct.
other.
Absolutely right. Okay, let's take a 2 minutes break and then we're going to start the VPC lecture. And I want you to pay attention to this. What did I do? This scenario, and refresh your memory from yesterday's lecture, because you guys are going to give me hints. I'm going to create the VPN and you're going to tell me what to do next. So for example, first of all, what is the first step, second step, and third step in order to create this this scenario. Pay attention to this, what I describe this real life scenario, and then after that I will draw as you start telling me what is the first step, what I have to do. I'm going to get my coffee in 2 minutes. Okay, ready?
Yes, sir.
Okay,
Yes,
let's
sir.
see.
Yes, sir.
So if you know the flow, believe me, that's the half of the course. So let me do this. So what's the first thing we have to do?
First, we have to make the availability zone, I think, or
Anybody else?
the region.
Anybody else? Anmol? Nasheen?
Sorry, I'm not sure exactly what you're asking, what the brief
Okay,
is. So
the
if-
brief is this. I just show you the slide, which is how we, this real life scenario where we were, this scenario, right? So I created the flow of all these, when we need a traffic guard and when we need a security guard. So this is a sequence, right? We created yesterday. And let me show you another slide. This one. So this scenario, so I want you to, because I showed you in a flow, so I
सर सबसे पहले हमें प्लॉट लेना है हमें
exactly. So what's the name of the plot in cloud?
so VPC
So
VPC बनाएंगे
right. So no, the first thing is you have to select the area, right?
so it's a region.
right region हम select करेंगे
Exactly. So let's go step by step. So this is going to be the region. So let's give this like a light color. Inserting what? Text box. Okay, let's see. What region you want? Like, give any name, like Lahore.
Asia Pacific
Okay, region. Oh, sorry. Yeah, you said Asia Pacific. No, it's not like the Asia Pacific also region. Let's make it simple. अभी मुझे एशिया पैसिफिक के नाम नहीं आते वहाँ कहाँ पाएंगे. Let's make it again.
So Mumbai में हमारे से closest, I guess.
London. Okay, let's make London region. So okay, the London district or London is we call East. We call EU. West and East. They have two regions, I think there. One. So this is the region. Okay, what's the next step?
I think was it. I remember the rooms. So those were like subnets, basically. So you can have a private and a public one.
Room. You want to buy a room where?
Sir, इसमें availability zone अब हमने decide करनी है.
Exactly. So we need a
Building. A building.
yeah, the first. So in the region, in the London region, we have to select the building, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
correct
So this building is going to be a what do you call this? Availability
Zone.
Okay, now we have availability zone. What else?
So then we have to, in the building, make the rooms, divide up the rooms, and decide if it's going to be a public room or a private room.
Zabardast. That's correct. So let's have one subnet. Okay. So and call this subnet. Okay, so this is the subnet. The red is a subnet. Okay, what's next?
So security group.
Security group for who? For what? Right now I have nothing in this. Just the subnet.
EC2 अब हम launch करेंगे.
क्या करेंगे?
EC2 instance.
Yes. Now we need resources. So where is this text thing? Insert. Yes. So this is going to be a subnet. I want you to remember this flow. So this is a subnet. So let's get rid of this. We already know that this is availability zone. So subnet, right? So in subnet we're going to have an instance. So this is our EC2 instance here, and let's give this like this color. So 2. Okay, now what?
And now we're going to have a security guard, a security group for
Okay.
the instance.
Okay, the thing is, the first we have to finish with the VPC part. I am also actually misguided. So we have availability zone, right? In availability zone, we have a subnet. Sorry, we have the building where we're going to have like a subnet. So this is apartment where we're going to have a room. In the room, we're going to have this EC2 instance. So now we are at the level of the VPC. What else we need at the VPC level? This is what we're talking about, the subnet level. So we have availability zone. We have the apartment, which is going to be our VPC. And what else we need for the flow of this network traffic?
Internet gateway.
ACLs.
What?
Network ACL.
Yes. So let's have a ACL. Where this ACL going to be in this VPC?
So at the VPC level.
Yes. Who's this?
So Mahin.
Yeah, very good. So this is an ACL. Okay. So now we are at the level of subnet. And in the subnet, we have the EC2 instance. Now we need what? To protect the EC2, second layer of firewall.
The security group.
Yes. And where this security is going to be?
So right outside the subnet, sorry, EC2.
Next to the EC2. Okay, this EC2 is a, let's give this so public subnet.
We have to create another subnet, the manual one.
Okay, so let's put this So now we have public subnet, and what's going to happen with the traffic? Can the traffic leave from here to internet? Can go to internet?
If it's public.
Yes.
Do you think this diagram is showing anything that the traffic can go to public?
No, sir. You need an internet gateway and a router.
Who's this?
Mine.
Okay, Mahim. Yes, absolutely right. So you doesn't matter if you, even though you created this a security group and you have assigned the IP address to the EC2 instance, traffic is not going anywhere. Something is missing in this diagram, and that is going to be a, what did you say, Maheen? Router?
Sir, yes, router and the internet gateway, of course.
Do you think that's going to help? Aren't you missing something?
Sir, router will direct the traffic to the public subnet.
Okay, so here you go. We have a router, and what else? Machine and mole.
Sir, are you referring to the routing table? Because I guess that is part of the router. Yeah, is it separate?
Yeah, that's true. That was missing. So you have a router. So router does not know anything until you provide the routing table. So this is the routing table attached to. Actually, what is the symbol should be for the routing table? I think it should be a table. The reason I'm doing this, I think you're going to remember this for a long time, this flow. And this is very important to answer the question in the exam. So now we have a routing table, and this routing table is attached to what? Make sense?
Yeah.
What is missing now? Can we send out traffic or from this diagram until this level? Traffic can leave these premises.
I think
Do we
you-
have to add the routing number?
Yeah, I think you have to define in the routing table what configuration or something.
Yes. Anything else?
We're also missing the internet gateway, which will connect us to the outside world.
That's true. So now the traffic flow going to be like this, but we're still missing one thing, is called internet gateway. Okay, so let's make this internet gateway. Oh. And give this a different color. Let's make this blue, and going to be internet gateway. And then we have this, and then going this. Now the traffic can go outside the VPC, outside the Amazon network, into the for the general public. If you have running the web server, now the traffic can come in. It's going to pass this NACL, and then it's going to the security group, and from the security group it's going to be a NAC your EC2 instance. So this is the flow.
Sir, can you give a good analogy for a router in this case?
Yeah, router is a cop in the network.
Okay.
The router is going to direct the traffic from inside out and from the outside in to this VPC. सो आपके अपार्टमेंट के अंदर कोई जब आएगा तो वो वहाँ पे अपार्टमेंट के बाहर अगर आपका सिक्योरिटी गार्ड है वो बैठा हुआ है, वो उसको पता है कि इसको अंदर आने देना है या नहीं आने देना, नंबर वन. लेट्स गिव यू अनदर एनालॉजी. लेट्स सी कि आप किसी ना फंक्शन पे जाते हो, कोई इवेंट हो रहा है, राइट? सो इन इवेंट इज बीइंग कंडक्टेड इन लाइक क्या कहते हैं, शादी हॉल या जो इस इवेंट हॉल्स होते हैं उसमें जाना है, राइट? तो जब आपने टिकट बाय की होती है तो आप जाते हो इवेंट हॉल के बाहर, तो वहाँ पे एक बंदा बैठा होता है, ही हैज़ लिस्ट ऑफ ऑल द गेस्ट हु हैज़ परचेज द टिकट्स. So that guy is a router. He is going to look at the list and he say, okay, yes, you are Junaid. Okay, you are allowed because we already have your name. So you are allowed to go inside the event hall. So because he has all the list who can go in and who cannot. So that's a router.
Got it. Thank you, sir.
So if that was a private subnet, the parameters would be different in the routing table compared to the public one then.
Yes, that's we're going to discuss in the subnet part of this lecture. Subnet, we will see what is private, what is the private IP addresses, and how the instances within a private network they communicate. So this flow was very important to remember and memorize actually. So this is going to help you a lot to solve the question. कि अगर आपको ये पता हो ना कि you cannot send out any traffic without having a IG internet gateway. You cannot communicate within a network without having your router inside the VPC. So router part of the VPC. IG, when you create the VPC, so you need these two things: network access control list, a routing table, which is automatically attached to the router. So these security group you're going to create yourself for when you launch the EC2 instance. And the internet gateway is always you have to create the internet gateway, because you know which subnet going to communicate outside world. So flow clear हो गया आप सबको ये सारा? So अगर मैं किसी इसमें से कोई भी चीज़ मिस कर दूं तो you should know that this server cannot be reachable, or the server cannot send out any traffic outside the VPC. If I miss anything from this, especially the IG internet gateway, if it's disappeared, so that's mean no traffic is leaving the VPC. And similarly, if I remove this guy, so you will see nothing going to happen, no communication. Okay, so it's clear? कोई डाउट तो नहीं किसी को यहाँ तक?
I was just going to ask, is there a limitation on how many VPCs or subnets you can have within a region?
Good question, and you have to wait for that.
Okay.
So let's get started. ये आपको मेमोराइज कर लेना, ये जो मैंने अभी आपको फ्लो बना के दिखाया. So let's see what is I have to minimize this. Okay, so remember the apartment, your VPC. So create user-defined virtual network with IP4 and V6. Yesterday somebody asked me the question, what about the V6? Yes, you can have a V6 and IPv4 stack. I mean, you can use both of them. You can have these two kind of IP addresses. Allow control of the network environment. So you have a complete control on your apartment, on your VPC, and everything inside that VPC. All the sources like EC2 instances, if you have like a database, if you have S3, so this is all yours, 100% control. can be connected to existing data center over VPN or direct connect. What this means is, if company is already running their business and they have their own data center, so this is their data center, like a customer data center. Now he decided to move some of their services, some of the resources in the cloud. So when they move some of service in the cloud, so how they going to, oh man, my writing, how they going to communicate? For that, they need a connection between their premises. So this is the customer side. Where's my, yeah, this is the customer. So, and this is the cloud. So they need a connection between these two. And that connection is called VPN, Virtual Private Network. This is a dedicated connection between the site of the customer and the cloud. And the other technology, other service they use called Direct Connect. So they can use either VPN or they can use Direct Connect. So this is how their on premises existing, because some people have spent a lot of money on their infrastructures, so they don't want to waste it. So they say, okay, let's go to cloud, but not in one shot, but maybe they're going to gradually migrate their services into the cloud. So now what is happening? So if they want to keep running their on-premises data center along with the cloud, so they can create these kind of connections. So can be paired with the VPCs in AWS. I just gave you a little hint yesterday. I just showed you one slide. That's how the multiple VPC, they can talk to each other. So that's called VPC pairing. Benefit of using VPC is a defined custom network. So you can define your own network. So it's remember when we created the EC2 instance in the EC2 lecture, you saw this Amazon is going to assign the default VPC itself, and then you have to, once it's defined the default VPC, then you have to pick the availability zone. I will show you today again, just to refresh your memories. So assign static private IP address to the instance. So static IP address is like a dedicated IP address. Mostly when you create any instance, so that is dynamic. Dynamic means if you running the instance and then you stop it or you terminate it and then you launch again, so next time you're going to get a different IP address. That's a dynamic. So DHCP, that's what they call. I will touch on that as well. Dynamic host configuration protocol. So, but you can have a dedicated static IP address, which is dedicated IP address, because let's say you're running your web server and you have your domain name. So you have given the host name, which is mapping the IP address to your website. So if you change the IP address every time you restart your system, so it's not going to work. So that's why they call static IP address for these kind of services. Define network interfaces and attach one of more network interfaces to the instance. What happens when you buy your computer? Every device comes with the internet interface. Interface means where the physical location through which the traffic can enter into your device and then leave the device. So this is called network interface. हर बंदे के आपके पास जितने भी लैपटॉप and computer हैं, each and every computer has a network interface card inside it, which you can use for the communication. Remember the model I showed you what you call 7 layers model. There was a one layer called physical layer. The physical layer has a network interface card. So you can define the routing between different subnets. So if you're running public subnet, private subnet, and then you can actually define the range of the IP addresses and how they're going to communicate. You have a total control when you have this kind of isolated logical virtual private cloud environment. So these are the benefits. So definitely security part, define network security by allowing and denying the traffic. So when I say allowing and denying, think about the 2 layers like a network access control list and the security group. So this is a dashboard in the Amazon for VPC. So let me take you there. Guys, they are having a reinvent. When is that? I think they always announce some kind of reinvent. Nowadays it's online, so I will suggest you highly recommend you should watch some of their videos, the keynotes, and what they are offering, what new services being launched. So this kind of information you can get from this. It's very interesting. And also see if you have seen those. This is my architect. All those video were recorded on these events. The people who participated in this event, they recorded those videos. So I'm logging into the AWS console, and here I'm going to select the services. Should be under what? Networking. Where is networking? Anybody can see networking? Okay, I can type actually. I can say VPC So this is going to take me to the VPC dashboard. So on the dashboard, you see this is the terminology we just use in our lecture. You have not seen NAT gateway. We're going to cover this. So we have a VPC, we have a subnet, we have a route tables, we have an internet gateway, we have a egress only internet gateway. This is another kind of gateway which is used for the IPv6 protocol. So see, I mentioned the DHCP, dynamic host configuration protocol. This is and elastic IP address. Elastic IP address is just like a static IP address. Endpoints is, for example, you are using the S3 buckets for one of your solution, and that bucket is not public, but it is available in the Amazon environment. So anything which is not public, but you are going to use that services within your Amazon environment, even though it has a HTTPS protocol with this. So that's kind of services called the endpoint within the Amazon network. So what else we have here? See, network access control lists. We have a security group. We have a customer gateways. We have a virtual private gateway, VPG, and we have a site-to-site connection. I just show you the customer side and the cloud. They're going to use the VPN connections. So this is a dashboard. Everything's here. So if I select my VPC here on the left side, so let's see what I have. I have one VPC running, which is default. I didn't create this. So let's see what this VPC contains. It has state is available, and it has a range of IP address which is IP4, and under IPv6 I have nothing, and there's no pool for this, and DHCP service is already running for this VPC. This is by default. I did not create. You don't need to create. And then it has a one routing table attached to this one. So also there is a one network access control list. This is the main one. When we see the main, it does mean that the system itself created for you. So this is not you who create. It is by default. And now he see tenancy is say default. We will look what tenancy mean, and in the later lecture. And then you see say is what kind of VPC is. It's a default VPC. It's not a custom created, custom configured. So if I want to create a VPC, I will click on here, and I will give the name called base VPC. And then I have to provide the size of my apartment. Remember I show you we need to give the apartment size. So I say let's use this one. What they have 10.0.0.0 / put it 26. So I am not using IPv6 for this, and see the tenancy said default or dedicated. So I will show you what the difference between this in the coming lecture. Then we're going to make more sense. So right now I did one thing. I give the name to my VPC. I provided the size of my apartment on my VPC, and let's see how many devices I can, how many IP addresses I can have in this. So there's a formula actually. I wanted to. These information which I'm showing you actually not part of this course. In fact, if you are interested in becoming a network specialist, then you need, but I'm giving this information anyway. So when you see 10.0.0.0/26, for example, I said, right? So what happened? So each of this 0 is the length of called 8 bits. Bits or bytes? I think bytes. 8 bytes. 8, 8, 8, and 8. So this means 8 times into 4 equal to 32. So if we want to know how many IP addresses I have in this block, this is called block. So what I would do, I will take 32 minus this part equal to, what's the equal to, I'm not good at math, 32 minus 26. 8, 6, right? 6, yeah, equal to 6, right? Then the formula is this 2 power of 6 equal to the size of my block. So what is 2 to the power? Let me use my calculator if I have here. Yeah. So this is 2 power of 6. So I will have a 64 IP address range in this. Oh, it's gone. Oh, I'll give my formula. Okay. So that's how you can calculate, but you don't need to know. This is the network specialist. They will be doing this. All you need to know, there's this block, and this is the block. So this block can have 64 IP addresses. And other thing I showed you yesterday, there is other website. If I put here like 26, here, see, it's showing you 64. So you can use the website or you can use the formula. So, but as a solution architect, you don't need to do this. You are not going to do this. So where was I? Was here. Here. No, here. Where's my where I was creating? Oh yes, here. So if I create the VPC, let's see what's going to happen. So the VPC has been created. My apartment is ready, and it is showing me this. It's giving me the VPC ID. Who's the owner? This owner ID is attached to my account. I have a AWS account. See how I logged in. So this is my owner ID. So the size of my apartment is this. It's automatically giving me a DHCP, and then the DHCP, and then they have a routing table, and they have an access control list. And let's see what is in the routing table. If I click here, in this routing table, it said main. This is the main routing table. So in this routing table, this is VPC ID. If I click on the routes, so it is showing this entry. It's saying 10 ... and 26 is a local and is active. What this means, this VPC can communicate with 64 devices within this network. No traffic is leaving this VPC, but they are talking to each other. If I have 64 devices, they are going to talk to each other using the private IP address, because I don't have any subnet associated. So right now this is not going to do anything. The first we have to create this by default. When you create the VPC, by default they're going to create the routing table. Then you have to edit it. When I edit it, I have to give the block size. Let's see, I say this going to be talk about, let's talk about 26 to 24. And then here I have to tell, if I have, not even this one, this is not good. If I say 0, so I say all the traffic can come to my system and then leave the system by using what? See, I have given the list of all the internet gateway, net gateway, internet interface, and then I have a peer connections, and then we have virtual private gateway. So I have to select if I want to send the traffic outside my VPC talking to on the internet. So I have to select internet gateway here. When I select this, so it say nothing's there, no result found. What this mean? I want you to use your common sense. It's a no results found. So what was created when I created the VPC? What was created by the system? System created so this is my VPC, and the system created two things: routing table and the main ACL. So when I check this routing table, I don't find anything here. Even when I say okay, go ahead and change this to different values. So, and when I say go ahead and give me an internet gateway, it's not giving me internet gateway. What do you think? Why?
Sir, आपने उसको public access नहीं दिया होगा.
Okay. Anything else? Anybody else want to try?
Is it something to do with the network ACL? Because that's like a security. So,
Sir, the routing is, I think the routing जो आपने लगाई हुई थी वो सही नहीं थी. That should be 0.0.
No, that's not the case. Let's see the ECL then. Somebody said ACL, right? So let's see ACL. So this is the ACL we have with this VPC. The ACL is attached to this VPC, and let's see what we have in this. In this ACL, so we have this kind of information: DNS, host name, and the resolution name. Nothing here. So this is not a default VPC. See, because the custom I created this. This is not default. Tenancy is default. So in this VPC, if I click on the let's see the inbound rule. So now in the network access control list, I have some rules. So rule number 100 said all the traffic can come in and leave. If I go to here, outbound, so traffic from 000.0 mean from any person, from any kind of IP address is open for the public. But it is open for public means any IP address can come to these services, any devices can come to this subnet, and they can leave as well. So that's what it's saying. Other than that, it's asterisk. Other than that, they will be denied. If there's something else here, like if they /22 or something, so that will be denied. So let's see. Okay, so one person said it's maybe something not in network access control list, or maybe it's a router. No. The reason is this, because I just created the VPC, right? The VPC, when I provided the VPC name, and I provided the size of my VPC, and by default they gave me these two things. They gave me a main route table, and these things you have to remember. Every time you create the VPC, it comes with the main routing table and the main network access control list. Because for the internet gateway, in order to talk to outside the VPC, you need an internet gateway. Internet gateway does not come by default with the VPC. You have to attach it. So let's see. I'm going really ahead of the topic. So here is a internet gateway. So I have to create the internet gateway and then attach to this VPC. This is how they're going to communicate. So that's why I was asking you, so why they are not able to talk, and why when I click on the route table, it's not showing me the entry of the internet gateway. So let me show you the default one. But I don't want to do this right now because it is in a sequence, so you're going to learn. So in this one, I have this VPC ID, and let's see the routing table. Where is that? Okay, this is the routing table for the default one, which I did not create. Is water. So look at the routing table. See the entry here. It's a IGW, Internet Gateway. This is, so if I create anything in this VPC, the traffic will go outside the VPC because the gateway is attached. Let's look into the gateway. So this is the gateway, and this gateway is attached to this VPC. So in order to communicate on the internet, you have to create the internet gateway and then attach that internet gateway to the VPC. So I'm not going further on this because you will get confused. I will show you when we go to that part of the lecture. So I start talking ahead of the topic. So let's talk about the side, this blocking thing. What is the blocking thing? In fact, you don't need to know that, but again, I am giving you, it's nice to know about this one. When you create VPC, you must specify a range of IPv address, which I just showed you that. in the form of classless we call classless inter-domain routing. This is what CIDR stands for. Back in a day when I was working in a data center as a data center engineer, we were working with the different layers of the networking, and then every time you use the layer of networking, there was a classes called A class, B class, C class. So in this at that time we were using the classes. Nowadays they are not using the classes. That's the only difference. Now they are using the block. They chunk like if I use this block, so I will have a more than 65,000 IP addresses in this block. So they change from the class type to block size. So this is the other thing. Just a second. Hello? Hello? Yeah, man, can I talk to you later? I'm in a class right now. Okay, thank you. It's okay, no problem. Okay, so now every time you sit down in to create the VPC, you need a CIDR block. So you don't need to think about this. This I'm just showing you back in a day, even though some companies are still doing, but they get rid of this because they were not fulfilling the purposes of today's technology. So now they came up with this a new idea called CIDR block. The CIDR block has two things. It's called prefix and suffix. So I already given you example of this. So the part of your IP address is like 10, this part .0.0.0. These are the prefix. And when I put /26, so this is suffix. So even though as a solution architect you don't need to know that, again I'm keep saying that, but it's nice to know that for when you are sitting with the network specialist, getting the requirements from the customer. So any question?
So does this define, because yesterday you mentioned that this would define, I think something about subnetting, that it would define the range or the size then. So does this set the...
Yes, definitely. So if you have this size of your VPC, then you're going to have, you can divide as many subnet as you want in your VPC environment. So we will go there when we start talking about the subnet. So this is a demo to review VPC dashboard I already showed you. So VPC and subnet sizing. So this is now I'm going to answer your question you just asked. Amazon VPC support IPv4 and IPv6 addressing and has different CIDR block size quotas for each. So now we're talking about the quotas, right? By default, all VPC and subnet must have CIDR block. So you cannot create VPC without providing this information to your VPC. You cannot buy a house without knowing how big the house going to be. You cannot rent apartment without knowing how big the apartment going to be, right? You can't change this behavior. The reason we're saying that you cannot create the VPC without giving this. But that's what they exactly mean by changing the behavior. You can optionally associate an IPv6 CIDR block as well. So you can have a dual stock. That's what we call dual stock. You can allow the traffic from IPv4 and as well as IPv6. That's what this means. So this is what happened. The network addresses reserved when you create the CIDR block. When you do the sizing, the 4 IP addresses are taken by the Amazon. let's say you have a CIDR block of 16. So you have like a 16 IP address for your subnet. The system will take the first 4 and the last IP address from this 16. So that's mean you will left with the 11 IP addresses. So now you will use these 11 IP address for your devices, because system actually going to take this 5 IP addresses out of this block. And what are those 5 IP addresses going to use for? They're going to use for network address reserved by AWS for the VPC router. Remember, everything talk to each other, they need IP address. So when you create the VPC, automatically you will be assigned a routing table, and that means the routing table is going to be part of the router. And the router also need IP address. You don't have to assign. The AWS going to take 5 IP address from you, and they're gonna start assigning to the different devices. So one is like network address reserved by the VPC router, and then another one is for DNS server, right? Because remember, when we create the EC2 instance, the EC2 instance have a private IP address, and then they have a public IP address if you are using it as a web server. Then they also have a DNS name. Remember, if you remember that, the DNS name server again need IP address. So they're going to use the third IP address for the DNS server. And then the fourth one reserved for the future use. I don't know for what the future use, but they have something in mind who has designed this VPC environment. And then the last one is called the broadcast address. So we do not support broadcast in VPC, therefore we reserve this address. So broadcasting is something every device actually keeps sending the signal showing that I exist here, I am here, I'm here. So that is actually not a safe thing. That's why they say we do not support broadcasting in VPC, because it's a security risk. So, but they are still actually holding this IP address, maybe in the future's use. Any question? Good. So I have actually highlighted something here which is very relevant to your exam, and this is important for exam. So you have to remember the 5 IP address are not going to be used from your CIDR block. So this is you need to remember. So reserved range for private subnet. This is another thing very important. According to the standard set forth by the Internet Engineer and Task Force, this is the authority which actually set the standard for the devices they are going to communicate on the worldwide level of communication in VPC level in the communication, or the zone to zone kind of from premises to the cloud kind of communication. This is the authority who set the standard. So what they did, they came up with the standard. The following are the IP range will be used by the private network. So Amazon, Google, and the Microsoft, Alibaba, they are going to use these range of IP addresses within their network. So these IP addresses for the private subnets is not going to leave the these cannot be used for the public IP addresses. So like from 10.0.0, see the prefix is 10, and then we have this prefix like 172 and the 192. So from this range to this range will be used by the private, for the private purposes, for the private devices, for the private subnets. So remember this is an also important thing. Oh, what happened? Okay. Then here's about the VPC and subnet sizing for IPv6. whatever I'm showing you right now is that where you see the I have a green important for the exam, you need to remember that. Where I don't say that, so that means this is an extra information for you. So you can associate a single IPv6 header block with an existing VPC. So remember when I created the VPC, there was option which was saying that you can attach, I am just watching the time, where you're saying do you want to attach IPv6 header block or not. So this is optional. So here the same rules apply here. The first 4 IPv6 address and the last IPv6 address in each subnet header block are not available for you to use and cannot be assigned to an instance. So see the pattern, the IP addresses when you of this IPv6 looks like something this one. So they are called as what do you call? So this is a complete IP address like 2001.dbt8:1234:1.0 and then they have 4 columns here. So this is IPv6 address look like, and they are 128 bits. Remember the IPv4 is 32 bits and these are the 128 bits. So let's this is the answer to your question, Nasheen. You were asking me how many subnet we can add, how many VPC we can have, right? The following table list going to show you that the resources, the VPC per region, by default you can have a 5 by default, but it's not limited. You can have hundreds of VPC per region for your needs, even though the default quota is 5 VPC per region. Got it?
Yes, sir.
So subnet per VPC, by default you can have a 200, but again the same thing apply here. It depends upon the size, how big your land is, और उसके ऊपर आप कितना कुछ बनाना चाहते हैं. ये आप पे डिपेंड करता है. If you have like 100 acre of land, and you can build as many houses on that land. So but by default it's a 200. So IPv4 header block, by default you can have 5 header block per VPC, but the quota can be increased up to a maximum of 50. Then for the IPv6 header block, there's a 1 by default. This quota cannot be increased. So these are the important information if you want to memorize for the exam purposes. They might going to ask. I'm not sure they're going to ask. So, but I will arrange the meeting, one day session with Haris. He's going to give you some tips. So this is the last slide. I think there's already a lot of stuff for you to consume for this week. So when you create Amazon VPC, you must specify this, right? Header block. I showed you that. The address range of Amazon VPC cannot be changed after the Amazon VPC is created. You have to remember that for the exam purposes. They might going to give tricky question on this. They say, okay, we have that much size of my VPC created. Now I want to increase the size of the VPC. No, you cannot do that. An Amazon VPC address range may be, this is another important information you need to remember, may be as large as 16, but 16 means more than 65,000 IP address, or as small as 28. 28 means 16 available addresses. So you have to remember that. That's why I have highlighted this. Amazon VPC with the address space of this one, 2 subnets with the different address range. So here's an example you were just asking me. So you have IP, you created your apartment size with the block, this is the block 16, this one, right? Within that block, then you created 2 subnets. with this block 24 and 24. So how many IP address you going to get with their /24 prefix? That is going to be part of your subnet, and they should not be overlapping. Look at this. This is 10.0.0.0 and here is 10.0.1.0. So within this VPC, you can have a subnet of this size, and this size. So look at the right hand side. This on this picture, it's showing you like a subnet 1 have this range, and subnet 2 has this range in availability zone B, and this is in availability zone A. You can have the two subnet in the same availability zone, but in this illustration they are showing this way. And then they have a router, and this router, and in this they have a 1, 2, 3 and 3 instance in this subnet, and they have a 3 in this subnet, and they're talking through the routing table. And look what is the target: local. So these communication happening with these two instances, between these two subnets and the instances within the subnet through the local traffic. They are not leaving the VPC of or Amazon network. So the VPC.
So that means the subnet is a private subnet. Then.
Exactly. So these two are subnet. Even though by looking at this one, and I don't see any internet gateway entry here, so that means this communication is happening between two private subnet, and this is the size of your VPC. This is the size of your subnet within a VPC. This is another size of your subnet within a VPC. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Maheen, Anmol, Ali.
Yes, sir.
This is very important to understand.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
हाँ, अगर ये चीज़ें आपकी क्लियर पिक्चर बन गई, सबनेट को प्राइवेट सबनेट, टारगेट लोकल है तो इसका क्या मतलब है, और आईपी साइडर ब्लॉक्स जो होते हैं वीपीसी साइडर ब्लॉक्स ऑलवेज लाइक ए बिगर रेंज, बिकॉज ये नहीं हो सकता कि अगर आपका वीपीसी ही छोटा है तो लेट्स सी तो यू हैव अ वीपीसी, इफ आई से इंस्टेड ऑफ 16 I say 28, you cannot have it in 28, 24, right? So the higher the number, the lower the IP addresses. So this is how things work. So I'm going to stop here. This is for you to consume for this week, and next week we're gonna go on to the next topic. What is this? Yes, subnet. We're going to talk about subnet in next week. So these are the just rephrasing what we just learned so far. This is the summary of what can we do with the VPC, and these are things to remember for the exam purposes. So I will go quickly on this when we start the next class, and then we have an actual topic. We're going to deep dive into the subnet part, and we're going to talk about the tenancy part. What does tenancy mean? And then we're going to create the VPC and look at the other components. Okay, so far so good.
Yes, sir. Thank
Okay,
you.
great. You guys are doing really good. आज का जो क्वेश्चन रिव्यू था, आई वांट वेरी इनकरेजिंग कि इंशाल्लाह सारे आप लोग जो हैं इसमें इंशाल्लाह ताला फर्स्ट अटेम्प्ट में सारे पास करेंगे.
इंशाल्लाह सर, इंशाल्लाह.
So जो असाइनमेंट दी थी किसी ने, डिड यू फाइंड द टाइम टू रीड दैट DevOps? That's important too. Okay, if you have not, then you have a whole week for this. You can actually read in this week. So we will have a little bit discussion, like 5 to 10 minutes next week, next class, about the DevOps.
Is that in the exam too, the DevOps?
No, it's not exam, but they are expecting the people who has this title, like a solution architect title, they should know the high level how the DevOps works. So I'm preparing you guys for the job, not for just for this course.
Okay, thank you, sir.
You're very welcome. Take care and have a wonderful week ahead.
Yes, sir. Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz. Bye. Allah Hafiz.